All right, so welcome to another deep dive. And today we're taking a look at Wcoin.
Okay.
We got their white paper. And, one of the things that just jumps out at me is this whole idea of mobile gaming and cryptocurrency. Kind of converging into this one space.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really fascinating space to be watching right now.
It is. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting in this white paper that they point out is that, a lot of times with these blockchain-based games, they talk about decentralization, but then when you really look at it, the users aren't really driving things in the way that you might think they would.
Exactly. There's this promise of decentralization, but a lot of times, it's still kind of operating on that more traditional top-down structure. And so I think that's where Wcoin is really trying to differentiate themselves.
Yeah, it's not just earn, or just earning crypto while playing.
Yeah.
It's specifically about giving the users a voice and some real influence.
Right, and they have a huge community already. I mean, the numbers in this white paper are really impressive. Over 46 million users in the app.
Yeah.
Over 2.5 million followers on X, and then over 12 million in their official Telegram channel.
Yeah, it's incredible. It really is. And so I think the big question for us today is, how are they trying to actually pull this off? How are they going to create this transparent, community-driven platform where the things that you're doing in the game actually translate to some kind of real-world value?
Yeah, so let's break it down. Let's start with the core gameplay. How does the game actually work? Okay,
so the core mechanic of the game is what they're calling tap to earn, or T2E.
Okay.
And essentially what that means is you go in there, you've got these daily tasks, you click a little virtual coin, and that's how you're mining the W coins. It sounds incredibly simple.
It does, that simplicity is, I think, part of the appeal, right? It's bringing in a lot of people who might not, be familiar with some of the more complex stuff in the crypto space.
Yeah, for sure.
But, it's not just about tapping. There's actually ways to kind of level up your earning potential.
Right, so they have these different in-game features that you can upgrade, and you can unlock different bonuses. It's kind of like leveling up your character in a traditional game.
Yeah, I see.
But instead of just getting some bragging rights, these upgrades actually directly increase the W coins that you're earning.
Oh, so it gives you an incentive to actually, really engage with the platform.
Yeah, and they've also got this staking system.
Oh, staking. Okay, so how does staking work with Wcoin?
So with staking, you're basically locking up a certain amount of your W coins for a period of time.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you're getting additional rewards. It kind of incentivizes people to participate in the ecosystem for the long term.
Yeah, staking is really popular in a lot of crypto projects because it encourages that long-term commitment.
Yeah.
And it helps stabilize the token as well.
Yeah, for sure. Now let's talk about transparency, because that's something that they emphasize a lot in this white paper.
Okay, so how are they being transparent?
Well, one of the examples that they give is that, right at the beginning, they let the community vote on which blockchain they were going to use.
Oh, wow.
They had a choice between Solana, TON, and Ethereum, and they let the community decide.
Interesting. So they actually gave the users a real say in a pretty fundamental decision.
Yeah. And ultimately, they ended up going with TON, which they highlight as being a good choice because of the integration with Telegram.
Makes sense. I mean, they've got such a large Telegram following already.
Exactly.
So it's kind of meeting the users where they are.
Makes a lot of sense. So now, let's talk about the WCOIN token itself.
Okay, the heart of the project.
So the total supply is 100 billion tokens. And what really stands out to me is that 70% of that is going directly to the community.
Wow, that's a huge community allocation. So how are they actually going to distribute those tokens to the community?
Well, they're going to be distributed through in-game activities, quests, events, all sorts of stuff, to really reward people for engaging with the ecosystem.
So it's all about, actually participating, not just, holding the token.
Exactly. Now, the other 30% of the token supply is broken down into a few different areas.
Okay.
It's for funding the ecosystem itself,
right?
Marketing, forming partnerships with key opinion leaders in other communities, exchange liquidity, and then general market activity.
Right. So it's kind of like the fuel for growing the project.
Exactly.
And getting it integrated into the broader market.
Now let's take a look at the roadmap. because they've got some pretty ambitious plans.
Yeah, what's coming up for Wcoin?
So Phase I Stage 1, which actually kicked off in the second quarter of last year, saw the game launch on May 2nd, and then we had the blockchain selection on September 4th, which, as we've discussed, resulted in TON being chosen. Now, coming up very soon, on February 16th, they have an NFT pre-market.
Oh, NFTs. Okay, interesting.
So they're going to be offering vouchers on GetGems, which will give people early access to some exclusive NFT opportunities.
So that's another way for the community to get involved.
Yeah, sounds like it. So then moving into Phase 2, which is scheduled for the second quarter of 2025. There are two big things happening.
Okay.
First, there's a planned WCOI airdrop.
Airdrop. So they're going to be giving away tokens to early adopters.
Exactly. Reward people who got in early.
Yeah.
And then also they're targeting April 29th for the exchange listing.
Oh, wow. So that's gonna make the token a lot more accessible to a wider audience.
Exactly. Then we move into Phase 3, Stage 2, which is really focused on expanding the platform and adding new features.
So this is where things start to get even more interesting.
Yeah. What are some of the key features that they're working on?
Well, one of the big things is that they're going to be completely rebuilding the mini app.
Okay.
The goal there is to really improve the user experience.
Yeah.
And also make sure that the platform can handle, future growth.
Makes sense.
And then in that same time frame, in the second quarter of 2025, they're also planning to launch the WCOIN token staking functionality.
So people can actually start earning rewards for holding their token.
Yeah, they're going to have these tiered reward structures. They're going to be offering competitive APYs and even milestone bonuses to really incentivize people to stake for the long term.
That's cool. And then what about cloud mining? I know they mentioned that in the white paper as well.
Yeah, so also in the second quarter of 2025, they're planning to expand their cloud mining capabilities. They're going to be partnering with different hash rate providers and offering, these flexible packages that people can purchase. And you'll be able to track your cloud mining performance right in the app. So it sounds like they're really trying to create a whole ecosystem around Wcoin, not just a single game.
Yeah. And then in the third quarter of 2025, they're planning to implement what they're calling a mining staking synergy.
Mining staking synergy? What does that even mean?
Well, essentially what it means is that you'll be able to combine your cloud mining output with your staking rewards.
Oh, wow.
So they're really encouraging people to participate in both aspects of the platform.
That's really interesting.
And then finally in the fourth quarter of 2025, they're planning to launch decentralized mining pools.
Okay, so this is more for experienced miners who really want to get involved.
Well, the idea is that it's going to make it easier for people to get involved in mining.
Yeah.
Even if they don't have a lot of technical expertise or expensive hardware.
So it's kind of lowering the barrier to entry for mining.
Yeah, and it's about sharing the rewards through these collective mining operations.
And that's a really cool idea.
It is so, stepping back and looking at this whole roadmap.
Yeah.
It's clear that they have some pretty big ambitions. They're not just trying to create, a simple game. They're trying to build a really comprehensive ecosystem.
Yeah, and they're really emphasizing that community-driven aspect.
They are. They're saying, over and over again that the users are going to be the ones who are shaping the future of this project.
So it's really about empowering the users to make decisions and to really, be a part of the project.
It's really fascinating. It's a really interesting approach, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it leaves us with some interesting questions to think about.
Yeah, I mean, if they're able to pull this off, to really create this level of community involvement, what are the potential benefits?
Yeah.
But also, what are the challenges?
Yeah, and what does it mean for other digital platforms, you know? Could this model be applied to other things beyond gaming?
It's a lot to think about, but it's definitely an exciting project to watch.
It is, for sure.
Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.